Hello, music listeners, underground enthusiasts, and anybody who got a tattoo related to a band that was later involved in some sort of controversy. I'm joined once again this week by my cat, because if I lock him out, he'll just scratch and meow, but if I let him in, he tries to knock over my mic. Luckily, I've got him to a somewhat docile state in front of my keyboard on my mouse pad, so hopefully he doesn't interrupt things too much. You just gotta make this hard on me, don't you? It's that time of the week again where we talk about songs that I listened to in the past week that came out in the past week. I give my thoughts on them, I describe them a little bit, and then we move on. We continue with our weeks. Oh, you just can't help but get in the way, can you? We're starting this week's list off with Jomie and supachefm with Spiderman. We talked about a supachefm and Jomie track on last week's list, but this week we're talking about a Jomie and supachefm track. The production from Citrus Gas Tank feels very DIY, something akin to what I would expect to hear on a Walter Mitty and his makeshift orchestra song. The plucky guitar loops, shaker, and bright bells and piano all feel super organic and lighthearted in nature. It's an instrumental that I really do enjoy a lot. supachefm's chorus is withdrawn and soft in its delivery, but hard-hitting and well-written at the same time. There's a certain rasp to it that contradicts my image of supachefm's clean, bright vocals that I'm typically used to by this point, and I think it's a really great approach for him. Jomie expands upon the topics and tone introduced in the hook with a low-toned, vulnerable energy and delivery, slowly crooning over the instrumental. The song is pretty low-key in its sound, and it brings a non-demanding and welcoming energy that I really do appreciate. Next up, we have Lord K and Adjacen with Boss Battle. 1 second into the song, you are met with a beat that has the fast-paced intensity of a panic attack and a melody out of an old Castlevania game. I guess the name Boss Battle kind of makes sense in that regard. The booming 808 kind of grounds it in a bit, but everything else in the beat is demanding and unrelenting in its energy, and I'm absolutely in love with it. Lord K barrels in, matching the hyper-intensity of the beat with an onslaught of lyrics boasting unwavering confidence and bravado, barely giving you any time to think. A hook that does not let up at all transitions into Adjacen's verse, which showcases his seamless vocal delivery and personality really well, starting out with this big choppy vocal delivery that stutters across the beat, but then picking up the pace to throw out some insanely fun bars with this ever so slightly distorted mix. The song is ridiculously fun and, in my opinion, essentially has infinite replay value. We're changing the pace now with the new Anxiety Attacks track, an acoustic emo song with soft and ethereal harmonies paired with emotional and resonant main vocals. The guitar provided by 93 Feet of Smoke is warm and kind of nostalgic in a way, with this mid-range tone that feels familiar in the best way. The vocals are soft but commanding, never letting your attention deviate anywhere away from the song. They're tightly packed but also feel relaxed and loose at the same time. I'm not sure how it manages to have the best of both worlds in that regard, but it does. It's a pretty song detailing running away, tired of the overbearing burdens of life, but also the recognition that running away from these problems isn't always the most healthy option, and tying this idea of running away to someone else, assigning the responsibility or final choice of doing so to them, saying, hey, say the word and I'm out of here with you. It's melancholy, and at just under 2 minutes manages to paint a pretty descriptive picture of insecurity, indecision, and fear. Next up, we have RTV Part 2 from Swaine, which is the first single released from his upcoming project. It's a bouncy and wavy sequel to RTV, a song from Swaine's 1.6 project. The repeated hook from the original one stays the same, but this time with a buttery smooth and confident flair that just bleeds personality. And Swaine's verse is full of the bars that at this point I've become incredibly familiar with. The flows, structure, and rhyme scheme are all pretty reminiscent of the late 90s and early 2000s era of rap as well. It's powerful and straightforward. Nothing is hidden or implied with Swaine. He's going to tell you how he feels directly, and he's going to do it in a really cool way, which in this case is a general disdain for interaction with those who feed into the toxic and somewhat cyclical habits of the industry. And we also get a verse from Godlow, who killed it on the first RTV with one of the most fun and engaging verses I've heard, and his other vocal endeavors on songs like Wallflower by Sewer Person have only built up my interest in hearing more vocal work from him. I've been a fan of his production for years, but he's also a genuinely really talented vocalist that I would like to hear more from. His flow is like a sine wave with this up and down pace and intensity, throwing out some rapid fire bars along with some spacey melodies as well. All this song has proved to me is that we need an RTV Part 3. And then we have Scribbles from 8485, who is making a comeback with this song, and although my introduction to their music was not too long ago, this feels like for longtime fans it was worth the wait. To get into things, the production from Drain Puppet is perfectly fitting for the vocal tone and energy that 8485 provides here. The chunky and vibrating bass and synths push in and out of the track, rattling the entire space that the song takes place in. And the breakneck speed drums are such an amazing support for 8485's wonderfully crafted vocal melodies. The "Don't be so emotional and difficult" line and the following lines after that contain some of my favorite vocal melodies of the year so far. And about halfway through the song, we get this super powerful breakdown with such a crazy and intense and engaging atmosphere. It's wavy and reverberating with bright and piercing synths breaking in and out of the growing intensity of the vocals. I feel like I could probably go on forever about this song and still feel like I'm not doing it justice, so I'm just going to stop here and simply say this is one of my favorite song drops of the year. You need to go listen to this. We got a new Mugizora track with Outsider. Mugizora has, on this song, decided to clash and combine acoustic emo and D&B, and it is a combination that I am not mad about. The hushed and dampened vocals are so heartbreaking and emotional, it feels like the dark and deep drawn out notes will carry on forever, but underneath them is a similarly dampened breakcore drum pattern, and if it wasn't for the subtle mixing changes and the vocal stuttering that has been added that matches their speed, you might not even really consider them to be out of place or an outside influence leaking into the track, because they honestly feel really natural alongside Mugizora's soft harmonies and weary vocals. This song has a certain calming aura to it that it pretty much never breaks away from. It is just pretty. Then we have Run from Corefish, another contender for one of my favorite songs of the year so far. It has a ridiculously infectious energy that you cannot help but being immediately hooked to. The confident and energetic delivery it's smile-inducing, I guess, and the sharp guitar notes bounce across the track right along with the vocals. This song is the definition of engaging. It's so in your face with its bright poppy sound, with a catchy chorus and whimsical verses. Yes. Whimsical, I said whimsical. The comments describe it wonderfully, with hits such as, "This beat is so jolly. I have the sudden urge to run to 7-Eleven and buy condoms to throw at random strangers while blasting this song and telling them all to listen to it. Love this, man, keep it up." And, "Mr. Fish, please man, I just want to see my kids again." Up next on the list, we got SMRTDeath with Deathrow Honeymoon. SMRTDeath gives us a bit of a rock anthem with this track. The twanging guitar and somewhat industrial sounding percussion surrounds a chorus that is just one of those hooks that it isn't hard to imagine hearing a stadium full of people screaming back at them. It's concise and catchy, one of my favorite choruses and instrumentals I've heard this year. This week has a lot of potential favorites of the year. I don't know what happened, they just all happened at once. I can't help my tastes. It is so well written and produced. The saturated and biting vocals describe a volatile and fast-paced relationship asking for what is essentially a spontaneous and wild shotgun wedding. It's a little goofy and wild, but that's also kind of the point, and I love it. "Those handcuffs look better on you" is a line that says everything you need to know about the described relationship that is being discussed on the track. It's wildly fun with some production that is pretty technically impressive and also just satisfying to listen to. Then we got Byepolar by Giovanni, who fires out some descriptive and emotional bars over a piano beat that I can only describe as noir. It is so moody and dark and unapologetically melodramatic in its vivid descriptions of a disoriented scene reflecting on mental health issues and the inability to stop the raging storm of emotion and actions. And the distorted background vocals that fill in the breaks between verses fit the mood pretty well and add on to the noir feeling of the track by giving off a bit of an old radio energy and vibe. Every time I listen to this song, I enjoy it a bit more, and it's intelligently written and delivered with a certain sense of urgency in the cadence that works out really well. Then we got a Lil Booj track with "There's No Chance I'm Staying." And on this track, Lil Booj approaches a topic that is not uncommonly talked about, but from my experience at least is rare to hear be the main driving force behind a song when compared to Lil Booj's contemporaries and related artists. The song describes the thought process and coping methods one develops when growing up a member of an organized religion despite really having no interest in actually being a part of it. It's tough, because being active in an institution or church like that when one is generally averse to it heavily affects your perception of a lot of things. And that's not to say that organized religion is intrinsically incorrect or deceptive by nature, but as Lil Booj describes his experience in the lyrics with lines like, "Recite what's on the page, I'm not aware of what I'm saying," and "I'm not okay that I had no say in what was placed in my brain," it's clear that being a member of this was not something that was desired or even truly understood. It's a harrowing depiction of detaching from what he was taught, and I think that this applies to really any institution or other entity that someone could be subjected to. It doesn't necessarily only have to apply to religion. But this is Lil Booj's experience, which is delivered with some somber and emotional vocals over an acoustic alternative rock beat. The wide vocals are delivered with a steady pace to them, and the background vocals help create ambient harmonies that phase in and out of the background, creating a pretty good atmosphere for the track. It is an honest and vulnerable change of pace in what I've been listening to and what I've heard recently, and that's pretty welcome. To finish off this week's list, we have Greenwood with If It Still Matters. This is an ambient piano ballad with some incredibly well mixed and delivered vocals. It's full of passion, but also depicts an image of potential loss, where Greenwood is anticipating the loss of somebody in a relationship, so is preemptively distancing himself from the relationship for the benefit of both of them, or at least the perceived benefit for both of them. It's so crushingly sad, with pretty gorgeous vocals that glide over this dark and moody piano, and there's a small part in the song that really stands out to me. Right before the final chorus, there's a short drum break that would have you believe that the energy is about to exponentially increase and explode to close out the final part of the song, but then it just doesn't. It's a bit of a bait. It is. It's bait. But for some reason, I really love it. The song is incredibly consistent in tone and energy throughout the entire runtime. So when it's almost time, when it's to end it, when it's almost over, the drum fill really catches your attention and then brings you right back to the soft, steady melodies that you've gotten used to by this point. The song is vulnerable and in a way kind of insecure. But man, is it really, really good. And that's it. Hope you all enjoyed. If you guys listened to any of these songs, please let me know what you thought about them. I feel like a lot of them were, left a really good impression on me. I enjoyed a lot of them and a lot of different elements and aspects of them for different reasons quite a bit. And to close things out, we're going to check on the very good boy who has decided for the fourth recording of this video to finally not interrupt me once I really got the ball rolling. So I want everyone in the comments to applaud him. He finally stopped biting my mic stand and trying to knock the mic over because, I don't know, I guess he fell asleep. So that's it. Catch me next week where I put on a pair of those Groucho Marx glasses with the mustache, put my hair back in a bun, and pretend to be a different person. Goodbye.